Back at her again. It's April 9th, 2025. And since my last video, it snowed here yesterday. We got about 5 inches. It's not going to last, melting pretty quick. But yeah, we're going to talk about buying an old tractor and the points to look at when picking something out. And I don't really know what you're looking for. The only thing I do know is my own experience. And in the last 35 years, what I've done here at the farm, what I needed to get things done. And this tractor here in front of me is an old 434 International. It's a diesel. It's around 42, 43 horsepower engine, so about 36 horsepower on the PTO. And this is what I started with. It wasn't this tractor here. This is my neighbor's tractor, but it was identical to this. And yeah, so in the last 35 years, I still do the same chores. You know, I have to clean my driveway, and I make my hay for the animals, and I have to clean the barn out, and I move stuff around and spread manure. And back at that time, this tractor did it all, and it did a decent job. And I owned that particular tractor for about 8 years, and then I moved up to another tractor, an old tractor, an old Massey 165, a little bit more horsepower. And the reason I moved up is I went from square baling to round baling, and I found this tractor was a little bit light for hauling the square round baler on the hills. Most of my fields are hills, but this old tractor did everything I needed it to do. It was slower, and so looking at that, getting started, if you buy right, like an old tractor like this, do the job. And this tractor here is 58 years old, and it still does a good day's job, you know, no problems. The old fellow that has it, he takes it to the woods and yards out his firewood with it. And it was here, and I just did a complete service, changed all the oils on it, and even the transmission, and she's ready to go again. And yeah, so the value on a tractor like this, you know, it's 58 years old, say 45 engine horsepower handy. I value it at about $5,500 to $7,500. That's just me. And went to town to buy a new 45 horsepower tractor. It's going to cost a lot more than that. And the beauty of these old things is they're easy to service. I bought all the filters for this from an automotive store. I didn't have to go to the dealer. It's old enough that a lot of the filters are cross-referenced now. It's a 2-wheel drive, and in the winter he puts a set of chains on the back, which is kind of what you need on there if you're going in the woods for traction, and sometimes it really helps out for plowing snow compared, depending on the driveway you have. Like my driveway is all a hill, so back when I owned a tractor like this, I had a set of ring chains on it, and it got the job done. I was stuck a few times. That was all part of the fun. But that's an example of a tractor that would serve a lot of purpose in that horsepower bracket, you know, and a square baler, no problem. The square baler I had, just tossed it out on the ground. I didn't have a thrower, so I wasn't hauling another wagon behind the baler, and that could have been a problem on the hills with weight. But that's one example. Yeah, so I moved up when I went to round baling. I went with the Massey, and then I bought the old Deere about 10 years ago. I guess, yeah, almost 10 years ago. And you know, a lot nicer tractor to work with cab air conditioning. And another example of an old tractor is this old thing right here. I bought last fall, and it hadn't ran for about 7 years, so I took a risk on it. I made sure it wasn't stuck on the engine, and I spent 35 hours on it this winter just picking away, and I got everything working on it from front to back, all serviced. It was hydraulics didn't work, the brakes didn't work. It had an old loader on it that I tossed to the side. It was pretty well useless, but now for a low cost, I got myself a second tractor for a raking and tedding tractor, and I'll probably plow my gardens with this and harrow with it, the gardens. And so that would be the purpose of this tractor, just to have a second tractor. Most of the years I only had one tractor, so yeah, so that's an example of an old tractor and what it can do for you. And it seemed to work fine for me for all those years. But the key is to buy right and not lug something home. So it's important that you know how to go and look at a tractor that you're going to buy and check it over. Or if you're not sure about that, you should I would recommend hiring somebody, a mechanic that knows what they're looking at, to go do that for you, and to save you making a good purchase. Yeah. So another thing to consider when you're buying an old tractor is let's say horsepower of the tractor, and the weight of the tractor, and flotation. And horsepower is pretty straightforward. The weight is important if you're using loader application, because the heavier your tractor is, the more stable it's going to be when you put a bucket load of gravel or manure or whatever. If you have a round bale spike in your bucket to move some hay, it's got to be ballast properly so it doesn't flip over or get light on the back end. That could be a situation, that could be a problem. So yeah, so consider that in your purchase. If you're going to buy a tractor, let's just say, for example, you're not farming, you're just cleaning your driveway, or maybe the only chore it's doing is you have some horses and you're buying round bales and you're taking them, bringing them home in the truck, and you want to take them off the truck and take them up to the barn or out to the horses to feed them. You want the tractor heavy enough to pick up the bale safely, but also you want the flotation of the tractor, and what I mean by that, the tires sized right for the place you're working with. So if you got this is April in Nova Scotia, and everything here is mud, and if you have a spot where it's really muddy and you have to get out to the horses and you're sinking in the front end, it could be an issue for steering it. That's where four-wheel drive comes in handy. Yeah, and also ballast. Like this old tractor here, these old tractors are heavy. Like the tractor dry weight on this 434 International, which is 1968 is this tractor. The dry weight is 4,600 pounds. The loader and frames on it are another 1,000. That's 56. And then this tractor has calcium in the back wheels for ballast, and so that's about 6,000 pounds, a little over. So that's 3 ton. This little tractor is. So it's planted to the ground really nice, and you could put a round bale with a spike in that bucket and pick it up, and it's not going to be too light on the back end. Now that's a round bale of hay, a 4-foot round bale, maybe 500 pounds. It will move it around, but if you're trying to move haylage around with that, 12 to 1,500 pound bale of haylage is just not the tractor for it. It's going to drive the front wheels down in the ground if it's soft, hard to steer, and it's going to be too much load on the front end. You know, these things will break off spindles, and so that's another point to think about. And in your purchase, it's a good question to ask the seller. Ask them if the back tires are loaded, and spend some time when you're looking at the tractor looking at those tires that are loaded, because they could be a cost to you if they're leaking calcium. It's a common thing. Looking at this tractor here, this old 685, you can see there's a prime example of the calcium leak in that rim. So it's starting to create corrosion around the valve stem. So at some point in the future, that's going to have to be addressed at a cost. Yeah, so just something else to think about. And also, if you've never had a tractor and you don't have any idea about the functions of the tractor, you should make a point to familiar yourself with them. And if you have no means of doing that, I would recommend going to the dealer and looking at a new one. You know, go in and look at a brand new tractor, similar to what you're looking for, you know, and have a salesman go over the functions of a tractor, because they're all the same. The functions on all four of these tractors are the same, and you know, they all have engine, transmission, 3-point hitch, a hydraulic system. Some are varied from others, but you know, PTO, and so you can get familiar with the different functions and where the controls are on the tractor. This old 434 is an 8-speed. It's got a high-low, and the PTO engagement is here. It's got gauges on it. There's another thing I should mention too when you look at a tractor, is to ask lots of questions. You know, if you're intimidated looking at them, get the seller to go over the tractor with you. Get him to start it, he'd move around, and make sure the brakes are working on it properly, and the gauges are working is an important thing. I mean, if some of these things aren't working, that could be a bargaining tool in the pricing. But if you have a tractor, you definitely want, in my opinion, the oil pressure, light, the temperature, and the charging system gauges and lights working on it. If they're not working, so you plan on, when you get it home, either replace the gauges or have somebody do that for you. It's important running a tractor knowing that the gauges are working, so you can avoid a problem. Yeah. So that's a few things that we talked about today for checking out things, for trying to figure out what's the best thing to do and look at for purchasing an old tractor. I'm going to do one more video. I'm not doing it today. I'm going to wait for the snow to melt off and to clean the tractor up, and I'm going to do an inspection. Go over a tractor just like I would do if somebody hired me to go check the tractor out, if it was suitable, and look for mechanical problems in it, to do an assessment of value, and that will be in the next video. And yeah, so